La Sorbonne. The name is derived from the Collège de Sorbonne, founded in 1253 by Robert de Sorbonne as one of the first significant colleges of the medieval university. The theological Collège de Sorbonne was suppressed during the French Revolution, reopened by Napoleon in 1808, and finally closed in 1882. This was only one of the many colleges of the University of Paris that existed until the French Revolution. Today, the Sorbonne is a secular institution. The original medieval building of the Sorbonne is no longer standing, and the building that exists today is a 17th century rebuild, which you can see here in an engraving from the 17th century, and in this modern photo. As you can see, it hasn't changed much in the last 300 years.
In the last 300 years. Being a religious institution originally, the Sorbonne was shut down during the French Revolution, along with most religious institutions. And then eventually it became the secular or non-religious university that it is today. Now, let me move on and see the two more important monuments of Paris, la Tour Eiffel et les Invalides.
What you're seeing here is the fireworks display for the 14th of July, or le 14 juillet, as they call it in France, which marks the date of le 14 juillet 1789, or the date of the storming of the Bastille, and this day is a sort of French Independence Day. In the background, of course, you see la Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower, which is often lit up with lights on special occasions, le 14 juillet especially. And the lower building you see to the left of the Eiffel Tower is Les Invalides, which we'll come back to in a moment. The Eiffel Tower was constructed for the 1889 Exposition Universelle, a sort of World's Fair held in Paris. One thing that many people don't know about the Eiffel Tower is that when it was first built, many people found it unattractive and even an eyesore. It's even said that the famous French writer Guy de Maupassant ate lunch in the tower's restaurant every day just so he could be in a spot where he knew he wouldn't be able to see the tower, inside the tower itself. Another lesser-known fact about the Eiffel Tower is that it was designed to be a temporary structure. It was to be torn down in 1909, 30 years after the World's Fair in Paris in 1889. Obviously, that didn't happen, but not for the reason that many people think. The tower was first preserved because of its height. The antenna at the top of the tower was used to send radio transmissions to battlefronts in World War I. Since then, of course, it's come to be appreciated as an important architectural monument, and there are no plans to tear it down just yet. So much for the Eiffel Tower. Let's get back to Les Invalides. Les Invalides is a complex of buildings relating to the military history of France, as well as a hospital and a retirement home for war veterans, the building's original purpose. The most famous inhabitant of the Invalides today is Napoleon Bonaparte, whose tomb is housed in the center of the main building underneath a huge dome. And since we've learned about the French Revolution, learning more about Napoleon Bonaparte is a good next step. The next clip will give you a good overview of some events you already know about, and also a bit about Napoleon himself.
We'll come back to Napoleon in a moment, but first, let's look at the one more important Parisian monument, Le Louvre. Take a look at the following clip from Rick Steves Europe on the Louvre Museum. To see more of the Louvre Museum as it is today, click on the two links below, Le Louvre 360 Exterior and Le Louvre 360 Interior, which will give you a 360-degree views of both the inside and the outside of the Louvre. Most definitely worth a look. So, now that we have an idea about some of the Paris important monuments, let's look at where they're located. And in Paris, you can't talk about where things are without knowing your arrondissement, which roughly translate to as neighborhoods.
The arrondissements of Paris are a wonderful system of organization of the city. The word arrondissement comes from the verb arrondir, which means to round off. So you can think of the city of Paris as rounded off into 20 different neighborhoods. You might notice that the arrondissements are ordered in a kind of spiral shape, moving from the premier arrondissement, the first arrondissement in the center of Paris, spiraling outward all the way to the 20th arrondissement.
And this is no accident, because the original medieval and pre-medieval city of Paris started in what today is the first arrondissement. and then grew outward, which led to an organization of the arrondissement in somewhat of an oldest to newest order. So now that we know Paris is laid out, let's look at where some monuments are located. To be able to say where these monuments are in Paris, we can use the numbers we already know, but we need to change them just a bit. Let's see the ordinal numbers. The new ones we use for counting work. So, to see these numbers in your online textbook, go to Chapter 6, Liste de vocabulaire, and scroll down to Les nombres ordinaux. Here we go.
We are going to see in this lesson the ordinal numbers in French. In English, they are the first, the second, the third, etc., etc. The same thing in French, but we have a rule. You drop the final E if there is one of any cardinal number, 1, 2, 3, and you add yem. And that's all. So, for example, with the number 12, the cardinal number 12, 12 in French, there is E, so a final E, so you drop it, you add yem, and you have le 12e, and that's all. This is the main rule, but we have, of course, in French, many exceptions, and we are going to see all of them in this lesson. The first exception for the word first. Why this is an exception? Because actually we have a masculine form and a feminine form. Premier is the masculine one, première for the feminine form. You can write it this way. So we can say the first boy, le premier garçon, or the first girl, la première fille. And as you can see here, premier or première are before the noun. We also use the word premier about the first day of the month, and only with this one. So, for example, when you want to translate the 1st of June, you will say in French, le 1er juin, with an ordinal number, premier. But afterward, for the 2nd of June, the 3rd of June, etc., we use cardinal number in French. So we say le 2 juin, le 3 juin, etc., etc. So we use premier only for the first day of the month. The second exception is second, because we have two words to translate it in French. Deuxième is one of these words, and the second one is second. You can hear that here in deuxième that the letter X is like is pronounced like a Z, deuxième actually. And here, second, the C is like a G, second. So why two words? Because there is difference between them. The first one, deuxième, is when you have to count a group of more than two things. In this example, we have 4 red points. So we will say the first, le premier, the second, le deuxième. Why le deuxième? Because we have a third and a fourth. But in this example, we only have 2 points. So here we will say le premier and le second. That's why we say in French about the word why the second, la Seconde Guerre mondiale in French, and not la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. Why? Because we hope there won't be a third. Second, has another particularity in French. We have two forms, like premier and première, a masculine, second, and a feminine one, seconde. Now let's see troisième for the third. Troisième, third is a regular, so it's no problem. Here you can see the first part is our cardinal number 3, 3, and we added this ending, ième, to get troisième. You can write this way. Troisième can be masculine or feminine, so here we have a masculine example, le troisième appartement, the third flat, or la troisième maison, the third house, a feminine one. Let's see all the ordinal numbers now up to 10. Quatrième, cinquième, so here you can see that we added a little U for cinquième. Sixième, again, our X is like a Z, sixième. Septième, huitième, neuvième. Here you can see that the F of neuf becomes a V, neuvième, and dixième with the same pronunciation Z here. So if you know now the rule, you can do the same for all the numbers. Another example, the last one with the 21st in French. So 21 is 21. So the same rule. So you add ième at the end, and we have 21ième. It's only the pronunciation here, it's a bit different. 21 and 21ième. And to translate enough, we say in French, énième, that you can write this way or that way, no problem. They are all correct.
So, to talk about the first arrondissement in Paris, I would say le premier arrondissement. Arrondissement is masculine, as you can see from the article le. So I have to use premier and not première. With the other arrondissements, it's a little easier since we use the same version of the number for masculine and feminine. Deuxième, troisième, quatrième, and so forth. So, now let's look at the map of Paris arrondissement and see if we can say which arrondissement certain monuments are in. I'll get you started with le Louvre, and then you do the rest. Le Louvre est dans le premier arrondissement. Le Louvre est dans le premier arrondissement. La Sorbonne est dans le. La Sorbonne est dans le. Les Invalides est dans le. Les Invalides est dans le. La Tour Eiffel est dans le. La Tour Eiffel est dans le. Pause the video now and use the ordinal numbers in chapter 6 to help you and see where the last three monuments are. So, how did you do it? Did you get le Louvre est dans le premier arrondissement, la Sorbonne est dans le 5e arrondissement, les Invalides est dans le 7e arrondissement, la Tour Eiffel est dans le 7e arrondissement. Great! Let's come back to Napoleon and practice our ordinal numbers one more way before we finish. Napoléon Bonaparte était le deuxième des 8 enfants. Et toi? Napoléon Bonaparte était le deuxième des 8 enfants. Et toi? In Napoleon's family, there were 8 children, and he was the second, so I need to use deuxième to say which child he was. Now, I will tell which child I am in my family. Je suis le deuxième des 2 enfants. So, this is correct, but you also know from the video you saw that we can also use second and seconde when we talk about the second thing in a series of 2 items. So I could say, je suis le second des 2 enfants. So, use these examples to help you and give you this a try yourself. Again, use the vocabulary from chapter 6 in your online textbook as well. Très bien, mes amis. If you have a handle of some of the monuments of Paris and know how to talk about a series of things using ordinal numbers, c'est tout. That's all for this segment. À la prochaine.